Today we're going to hopefully put some of the street back in the street car for the RX-7 here. We're going to be making a few changes to the cooling system with the help of some products from Mazir. So a few videos back I was doing the triple pass mod for the radiator to try and keep the car cool, and it worked a little bit but not that great. And Jerry at Mazir saw the video and he hit me up and he's like, hey, I've got a few ideas that might help you out and might help out some of the viewers. So we kind of talked a little bit back and forth, and what he told me was that on some of the spec class off-road racing that they help out with, because they're over in California, it gets really hot there, and a lot of the like real broad term trophy trucks that are spec class, they have to run a factory water pump and stuff like that. What they'll do is block off the internal bypass for the water pump. Let me show you what that means. Now this is a factory truck water pump. You can see this hole in here that the thermostat normally blocks off. What that does is that allows the coolant to circulate inside the engine without seeing the radiator at all. So he said to get a few of these. I believe these are 1 1/8. These are either 1 1/8 or 1 inch. I can't remember what this one is because I bought some of both just to be safe. And he said you want to put that plug in there to block it off so that it forces the coolant to go through the radiator before going back into the engine. But he also said to drill a small like 1/8 inch hole in this to help with bleeding the air out of the system. So that's one of the things we're going to be doing today. Speculating, part of the issue is that a lot of the coolant is just sitting inside of the engine instead of going through the radiator. So we're going to try to force it to go through the radiator to get cooled off. Another thing he was saying, a big problem with the LS cooling design is the thermostat is on the lower hose. So what that does is at higher RPM, it causes a cavitation, which creates air pockets in the cooling system. So he said that's something that they've seen a lot, which is why they offer these inline thermostat housings, which are pretty sick, to be honest. It's all billet aluminum. It feels really nice. It's super light. But what this will do is allow you to move it to the upper hose like a standard kind of small block Chevy and eliminate a lot of the cavitation issues. And then he also sent me this aluminum fill neck and this radiator cap to get the fill neck off the upper hose, to put the fill neck right on the low hose side of the radiator. I put it there to try to get it to the highest point, but he was like, if we thought that was a good idea, we'd offer those kits, because that will help fill the entire engine first all the way up to the top of the radiator. Like if you look at the small block Chevy one, you can see how the radiator hose is on the lower side so that it fills there and then goes into the engine at the same time it's filling the radiator. Now with the triple pass mod that I did to the radiator, I'm not sure how well that will still be effective, but it'll at least help clean things up in the engine bay a lot. The fill neck and everything I don't think is anything that's super crucial. I think the big deal here is blocking off the bypass in the water pump to, like I said, force the coolant through the radiator. And then the other big thing is this, which is actually super nice. This is a recovery tank. So you can kind of see here how it's going to get set up. It's just coming off the radiator cap going into this port on the recovery tank. This, with the engine cold, will be filled about 1/3 of the way up with some water, and then this line will just be a vent that for safety should be ran all the way to the back of the car. You can see here in this diagram it's just dumped, but again, for safety, especially like this where it's going to be seeing a lot of drag racing, you don't want any point where it could spray water right in front of your tires. So I think the big thing we're going to tackle first is get the bypass in the water pump. I'm hoping that we shouldn't have to actually remove it. I'm thinking that I can just pull this lower hose off and get the plug drilled out and just kind of tap it in place. It shouldn't go anywhere. I know on the one over there it wedges in there pretty good. And then a hard part is going to be trying to find a good spot for the recovery tank to sit, because there's not a whole lot of room, and that's kind of a tall box. It has to be mounted upright. The thing I like about this, like just real talk for a second, it has 2 different ways you can mount it. There's holes going through it, so you can run a bolt through to like some sheet metal or a bracket or something and then put a nut on the backside. Or they also have these welded on that have threads on them, so you can just run a bolt right into it. That's pretty trick. I like that. Anyway, this has to be mounted upright. It's kind of tall, which is an issue here, and it has to be ideally somewhat close to the overflow there. You don't want it like all the way at the back of the car. I don't have enough room to mount it in the driver's fender well anywhere. I can't really mount it here because when I turn, the tire will hit it. Back here won't really work. I think that'll be too far. I don't know if it specifies an actual distance, but when I was talking to Jerry, he said you want it like as close as you can get it. For now, I might like put it here and honestly kind of just zip tie it to the lower rad hose because it's a metal hose right now, just for testing purposes to make sure it will actually work. Yeah, aside from that, I think we'll kind of cross that bridge when we get there. For now, let me just get the plug in the water pump and go from there. That one's way bigger. Well, shit. That sucks. Well, talk about a bummer. This 1 1/8 inch plug for the F body pump is too small. I need like a 1 1/4, maybe 1 1/2. Damn it. It fits perfect on the truck pumps. Just so you guys know, 1 1/8, perfect for the block off for the truck pumps. But the F body pump seems to need 1 1/4, 1 3/16, 1 1/2, somewhere in there. Well, I guess we'll pick this up in a few days when the new plug shows up. So instead of trying to find the correct size freeze plug to fit in the water pump and then buying it, waiting like 3-4 days for it to show up, I had an idea. On the front of that hole in the water pump is a machined surface. So what I'm going to do is take this little piece of scrap that I had laying around that's actually already the perfect size. I'm not even going to bother cleaning up the edges. Drilled a hole in that, and I'm just going to JB weld it to that machined surface to block it off. It'll accomplish the same thing. I was going to just try to silicone it originally with some like RTV, but I was like, I could see that over time failing. Let me make sure that that surface is all clean and everything. We'll just JB weld it in place. It should be fine. I'm hoping it's fine, because the other option is it comes loose and destroys the inside of that water pump and hopefully doesn't go into the motor. It'll probably be fine though. Alright, so I got that block off plate in there. I think I'm gonna be able to make the recovery tank work right here. It's on a slight angle, which I know you want it straight up and down, and I'll be able to just probably secure it in place with zip ties for right now. And then just because of time constraints for right now, I'm probably not going to weld in the fill neck or make a new upper hose for that. I'm hoping that for right now at least this will help keep the car a whole lot cooler, so we can actually do the street drive part of this next race that's coming up for like a daily driver type street car. There's going to be like a 10-15 mile cruise before the race to kind of prove how street you are, and then after that I'm not real worried about it. Alright, finally about to take the car out and just cruise it around for a while, see how hot it gets. Hopefully it doesn't really get hot at all. If it got to like 210 and just kind of hovered there, I'd be okay with that, honestly. Alright, let's go.
10 minutes of driving and we're at 210 degrees. So it's still not great. It seems to be hovering around 210 though, which is actually pretty nice. Still not great, but not the end of the world. At least it's pretty drivable now. All the Silverados I've had seem to drive around 210 degrees, so I think we might just call that fixed.
Alright, so it does seem to be a little bit better. Last time I drove the car here, it was a few degrees warmer, not much. It's 80 out right now. Last time I think it was like 80, 85. And last time it got to like 225 when I was pulling in here. This time it was about 211, give or take. So it does seem to be a little bit better. It's still not, you know, what I would call amazing, but as long as it's not actually overheating and I can drive it, then I'll take whatever I can get, you know? So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hope it helped somebody. Thank you for watching. Thank you for liking, commenting, and subscribing. We'll see you next time.